Okay, Davai.
Here we go. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and my buddies on the internet, we're back. Got my friends Regis and Russell. We're going to talk about what's going on in Ukraine, all the stuff that you're not supposed to know. So, latest word is that Ukraine's got the next Maidan. It's already starting. My understanding is that they're storming Akhmedov's offices in Kiev. They've surrounded the president's administration. There's armed people in Kiev. The campaign is on. The battle's going on in Donbass right now. They're trying to retake some territory, and I understand that the Donetsk People's Republic is actually taking back Devaltsovo, and they're in there now. Is that what you heard, or what's going on?
Well, tell us about it. They made the Ukraine's advance towards Devaltsovo a couple of different times in the last couple of months in the gray zone. They did move forward and build some new positions, and those are being, slowly moved back to the Minsk agreement line, which is where they belong.
So who's doing the moving back here? Are they moving back on their own, or?
No. They don't move back on their own. But it's interesting, when these Nazi propagandists, when they are always saying that, the Novorussian army is the one that's, on the offensive, that's not true at all. We have no need and no reason to expand beyond the Minsk. We're fighting a defensive war here. We're not attacking Ukraine. We're not attacking the Ukrainian army. We're defending ourselves from Ukraine and the Ukrainian army.
So my understanding is that they've had an offensive going on for about the last 2 weeks?
Since the beginning of the month, it's been real. I mean, at the beginning of the month, it was really heavy with Grad rockets, Toshka-Uz, Uragans. Weapons of mass destructions were used against the civilians here. It's quieted down a little bit from what it was the first week or so of February and the last week of January, but it can go off the hook at any time.
So now, for some of the people that are out there that don't really understand the names of some of these things, like a Tochka-U is a ballistic missile, actually.
That's right. It's like one level below a tactical nuke. I saw where one hit. One hit actually at a bus stop called the Motel Bus Stop here a couple of weeks back. We made some pictures and videos of it. It blew out every window for half a kilometer around. The building that it hit was leveled to the ground. So these are very serious weapons, and they're using them against civilian areas. Of course they are using them against the military too, but they use them also against civilians. So it's literally and legally, it's a war crime what they're doing.
Yeah, using any, just for the record, if you're using a weapon that's designed for field use, where you're attacking an army in a field against a civilian enclave, and you're not able to aim that so that non-combatants are not harmed, that's a war crime.
Sure. And like even Grad missiles, there's no way to aim them accurately. They fly 20 kilometers, and you can tell within a football field of where they're going to hit, but that's about it.
So I'm looking at what's going on in Kiev. You guys seeing this?
Yeah.
So if we look at what's going on in Kiev, this is outside the office of Renat Akhmedov, who is one of the oligarchs in Ukraine. And if we're looking at what's going on here, and we just pause this for a second, right? Let me get this a good shot of this right here. But if you look right in the center of the screen, let the wind pick it up here. That is a Nazi wolf's angle turned into a flag. And then if we look at this right here, OUN, these are organizations with this red and black flag. Those are organizations that are Nazi war criminals from World War II. So, you know,
exactly
they're out parading in the street. You got Nazis all over the place. They're bombing people and stuff. And, you know, in reality, Europe's not doing anything about it.
Europe's still supporting them. The EU and the United States are still sending weapons, equipment, money, instructors. I mean, the U.S. Army has instructors teaching these exact Nazi battalions, Azov, Pravi Sector, like that, instructing them, you know, on how to be snipers, how to build, how to shoot artillery.
This stuff was all in the news in 2014, but as of recently, I don't think it's so popular. Regis is in the United States. He's watching the news, and he's been following this whole Russophobia propaganda. What's your take on it, Regis? What do you think?
Well, there are more and more of us here in the United States who believe that the coup was funded by and promoted and instigated by the United States. Victoria Nuland, Undersecretary of State with Hillary Clinton, bragged about investing $5 billion in a regime change 2 weeks before it happened, and it was on YouTube. I mean, it's there now. You can go in and you can watch this thing, and she's given a talk to Exxon in which she mentions the $5 billion in the regime change that was going to happen. So I was in Odessa last May for a week to observe the second anniversary of the massacre that happened in Odessa. And of course, we were with pro-Russian people and got that side of the story, which really confirmed for us from the United States and some European countries what was really happening there. And basically it's the United States, as Russell said, that's completely behind it. I don't know where they get those kind of weapons, if not from the United States military industrial complex. I don't know who else is making that stuff.
So we got a question from a viewer, Timothy. It's asking, are there any international monitors in the area?
Yes, there are. It's called the OSCE. It's the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. It's a European Union backed organization. There is a special group of them here, headed by a dude named Alexander Hug. He is, I mean, the OSCE is a joke here. They are rightly considered to be UCROP spies and cowards and liars. And because it's impossible for anyone to really be as stupid and clueless as these guys are pretending to be, especially Hug, the leader, the director of the mission here. I mean, he's an absolute bullshit artist. He's actually a coward too. He's run back to the Ukrainian side. He left his workers here, but he's on the Ukrainian side now since before Givy got killed. And there's a lot of people that think he might have had something to do with giving some information about it. These guys drive around. They hang out in the most expensive hotels in Donetsk. When there's no shelling, they sit in the bar and drink. They're known to be really poor tippers as well. Then when there is shelling, they say, well, we can't go out now. It's too dangerous. They're shelling. And so they'll show up at a place a couple of days later. And when artillery hits, you can tell just by looking at the hole. I mean, once you have experience, which, it took me maybe less than a month at the front before I could look at a hole and say, okay, that's an 82 millimeter, that's a 122. And you can tell what the caliber is, so you know the range, and you can tell by the impact and the shrapnel spread, you can tell what direction exactly it was coming from. And so these dudes come up, they look at the hole, they put a compass down there, they take a picture, and they can tell. They say, oh yeah, this, this is a 122, it's 5 kilometers to Avdiivka in that exact direction that this impact hole shows is where it came from. The Ukrainian army occupies Avdiivka. And so they say, okay, this shell came from within range of Avdiivka, and it came from the direction of Avdiivka, and the Ukrainian army is in Avdiivka, but we don't know who shot it. So that's the kind of, bullshit that the OSCE does here. And really, it's, they're worse than useless. And a lot of people here, seriously consider them to be spies. Because they drive around in our territory in bulletproof cars. Fortunately, they're not armed. At one point, Poroshenko was trying to get them to be allowed to carry weapons, but they're not, which has certainly prevented some serious problems, already. But basically, they can drive around anywhere they want, and then they talk with the Ukrainian army every day. There's another group of them that's on the Ukrainian side. And so, in Avdiivka, there was a photograph during the heavy shelling at the beginning of the month of 2 Ukrainian tanks hiding behind an apartment building in Avdiivka with 2 OSCE cars parked right next to them. So they know that prohibited weapons are there on the front line in civilian areas in Avdiivka, and there was photographic proof of it.
So these rockets, they fired these Tochka rockets, these ballistic missiles, just recently.
Yeah. And in fact, the Russian Federation has collected up evidence and is planning to prosecute the people that fired them for war crimes, for crimes against humanity, which they are. Because these things, a Tochka, who I saw where one hit near the Volvo Center, and it made a crater maybe 20 meters deep. I'm talking 60 feet deep, 100 feet across.
It's a big weapon.
Yeah, it hits very hard. In fact, I was at the airport when they fired 2 at the airport. The Ukrainians fired 2 at the airport after after our guys cleaned out the Ukrainian cyborgs, the indefeatable cyborgs that either all died or ran away. But I was in the area of the airport when they fired 2 at the airport, and I was like a kilometer away. It shook my guts. I really, for a moment, thought that it was a nuclear weapon had been used.
And they live really big holes, don't they? These things are, you can drive a car around inside the hole after it's blown up.
That's about it, man.
Trying to find some pictures of just how big the holes are. So here's one, and I'll share my screen to give people an idea of just how big that is. That's the hole from one of these ballistic missiles. And now they're launching these into the city. So obviously you don't have armed troops everywhere inside the city. They're on the outside of the town. And when you're launching something like this into a city, well, obviously you can't control where it's going to fall, can you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're actually way more accurate than, say, a grad rocket. You know, I mean, they're longer range, but they are pretty much a precision weapon. They can hit, you know, within 50 meters from, you know, 100 kilometers away or whatever, you know. So it's, you know, but I mean, the thing is, they are intentionally shooting them at our civilians. It is terrorism. It is trying to terrorize people to break their spirit, but it's not possible to break the spirit of the people of Donbass. I mean, first of all, we come from, you know, the history of the Second World War, the Great Patriotic War. We know what fascism is from, I mean, there's still people living in Donetsk that I have talked to who were here when the German Nazis were here. And they know exactly what it was like. It was slavery and mass murder daily. Now that's video of a grad right there, grad rockets, which are, you know, they contain about 25 pounds, 25 kilos of high explosive. The rockets are like 12 feet long. And they're pretty scary when they're coming at you too.
So these things are designed to take out fighting armies in fields.
Right.
They're not designed for accuracy. They're designed for covering several hectares of land where you've got troops in the open.
Yeah.
So how is it possible that you can use a weapon like this and not instantly be the next Assad or Saddam Hussein? Or, you know, they make these claims that, you know, the world's full of dictators and all these guys are really bad. But when you got proof that you can go and say, well, here's the video of these guys launching these rockets into these towns, and they're killing innocent people just like any other place. How is it possible that there isn't this uprise?
Well, it's basically, you know, these guys are doing this on the orders. I mean, Biden came right before Trump took power. Biden was here, you know, a week before the inauguration. John McCain and some other scumbag were here New Year's on the Ukrainian side, of course, encouraging these guys to commit exactly these crimes. The thing is, the $5 billion that Victoria Noodleman was bragging about at the Exxon conference, of course, which, interestingly enough, Tillerson, the new Secretary of State, was the CEO of ExxonMobil. But that $5 billion that she was bragging about, they want their money's worth. And as long as Donbass keeps Ukraine, you know, keeps the Nazis from owning all of Ukraine, then they can't do what they want to do, which was to destabilize Russia through Ukraine. And actually, they've destabilized Ukraine, as you showed earlier. The Nazis are, you know, they're chasing each other's tails in Kiev right now. Tomorrow is supposed to be the big day. It should be very interesting there. So
they're going to start another Maidan, is my understanding.
That's right. You know, what these guys that are protesting in Kiev right now are saying is that the Nazis in power today, Poroshenko and his regime, are not Nazi enough for the guys that are protesting. So the guys that are coming to Kiev are saying we need to kill more Russian people in Donbass. We need to, you know, use chemical weapons or, you know, weapons of mass destruction and either kill them or make them all run away to Russia or go in there and take over and make them slaves.
So, Regis, what's your take on this? I mean, are they going to be able to continue this big lie as they proceed with, demanding Crimea be returned and Russia get out of Ukraine. Are they going to be able to keep this up in the media long enough to make it something that everyone believes if you repeat it enough?
Well, I have two thoughts on that. One, it's in the media and it's going to continue to be in the media. There are many of us that are completely aware that the media is the propaganda arm of the deep state, the military-industrial complex. And it really irritates me is it seems like the majority of the American people either don't give a shit or just aren't paying attention. They just don't realize what this country has been doing and is doing right now in Ukraine, and the very serious consequences of provoking Russia, a powerful nuclear armed state. And I keep pointing out to people that Russia is not alone in this. China, if there is a war, is going to become involved in this. Iran is going to be involved in this. God knows whether Pakistan and India and France and England will get involved in this. But, my new film treats this whole thing, 30 Seconds to Midnight, the final wake-up call. I think we're right on the brink of extinction as a human species. And, with these continued provocations of Russia on their borders, and it's not just Ukraine. We've got thousands of troops there along with NATO. We've got missiles all around Russia and all around China. I mean, if Russia did that and had one base in the Caribbean somewhere or in Mexico, it would be all over. And, when we do it, it doesn't seem to matter to the American people. They just don't seem tuned into it. It's very frustrating for people like me who are independent journalists trying to tell the truth when most people have just tuned it out.
Well, you make a very good point there, Regis. And the problem is that these people in the United States that are, either intentionally, or, just because they've been dumbed down by the, mass media and their crappy education system, they don't understand how much this can and will affect them, how it can change their lives forever.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, I couldn't agree more. I rail about the very same thing, Russell, that the American public have been brainwashed. They are basically anesthetized. They just have completely tuned it out. We're completely focused on entertainment, reality TV shows, and sports, and not enough people in America are hurting yet to realize something really, really serious is going on.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's like those guys you see on the internet, on the videos, that, they entertain tourists by sticking their head in the crocodile's mouth, and they've done it 100 times and it's never been a problem and it never hurt. But then one day the crocodile decides to bite, and that's what it's going to be like. It's not going to be like, oh, well, it's going to hurt a little bit. It's going to hurt a lot. Not just the people in the States. So that's what people really need to understand. That's what I'm really going to start trying to focus on in my work this year, is getting the message out that what has happened in Donbass, first of all, it can happen in the United States as well. I mean, if you hear all this talk about, if Clinton had actually succeeded in stealing the election, which she certainly rigged, but if she had stolen that election, people are talking about a civil war and everybody's going to rise up and all that, and it can be done, and it probably should be done, and it has been done here in Donbass. But I want the people there in the United States to understand that, they're like, oh, I've got my M16 and my closet full of, freeze-dried food or whatever, they're not going to be looking at, cops kicking their doors down, with rifles or pistols. They're going to be looking at, the American version of Grad missiles. They're going to be looking at mortars, artillery, blowing up cities in the United States. And that's if there's a civil war, And if there's not a civil war, then it's going to be with a war with Russia. Forget about it, man, because Russia's not going to incinerate New York City or Washington, D.C. or L.A. or Houston. That would be too merciful. That would just, millions of people would simply die. The Russians will pop off, 5 or 10 EMPs in the stratosphere. Nuclear bombs that explode up in the sky won't kill anybody, but it will turn every electronic thing into a brick. Every computerized car, every computer, every cell phone, every GPS, every microwave, and then people will wish they were dead.
One of the interesting things about what you're just mentioning is that if you go and look at what the Russians have out in public, they have the people in their physics that are as advanced as the United States and in some ways much more, but they've got a desk-sized machine that's able to produce an electromagnetic pulse the size of, well, with the energy force of a nuclear reactor. So, we're talking 100 megawatts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and then, if there is any real question that, does the government really understand that? Just before Barack Obama left office, he went out and said that we need to look at space weather and the possibility of electromagnetic interference on our infrastructure. But the report that was supposed to be done was actually not directed towards the National Oceanic and Atmosphere Administration or anything like that. It was for Homeland Security. So obviously they're worried about what kind of infrastructure damage would happen if they did actually go to war with Russia. It's pretty obvious that they're not talking about some solar flares or something like that. They're talking about what happens to the country when we go to war. So,
well, I think a good analogy would be, I'm sure all of us here in this discussion know, but a lot of people perhaps in the general American population don't know. But Vladimir Putin is a world champion judo artist. He is a judo master. He's one of the highest ranking judo practitioners in the world. And judo is the art of using your enemy's power against them. And there's no, imagine if, on, like World Wrestling Federation or something, if Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump got into a wrestling ring together to duke it out. And as entertaining as that would be, I wouldn't want to spend a lot of money for the ticket because it would be over in seconds flat. And I think that's a legitimate analogy for if the United States continues to provoke Russia and provokes them past the point of no return, Russia will deal a devastating blow to the United States instantly. And people in America will go to bed one night and they will wake up the next morning, but their lives will be changed for the rest of their lives. Their lives will be completely changed and not for the better. And so, you know, American people really have a responsibility to everyone in the world, a moral responsibility, but they also have a practical responsibility to themselves and to their children, not to allow this, you know, deep state, you know, this, you know, the military industrial complex to start a war that they cannot win. In fact, a war that will, in which they will be crushed, in which the United States will be put back into the, you know, the 1800s. People will be riding horses again if they're lucky.
Yeah, this is from the last day in office of Obama, January the 19th, where the Obama administration releases their final words, which is no nuclear EMP protection. And the Congressional EMP Commission warns that nuclear-armed rogue states or terrorists can make a high-altitude electromagnetic pulse, an EMP, attack that would essentially black out the national electric grid and other life-sustaining infrastructures for over a year, killing 9 out of 10 Americans by starvation and societal collapse. Yet as the Obama administration goes out the door on its very last day, January 19th, its Federal Energy Regulatory Commission is poised to pass a standard that is grossly inadequate to protect the nation from natural EMP, from solar storms, and that will make it more difficult and expensive to pass future standards in order to protect the nation from a nuclear EMP attack. So they're obviously well aware that they've got no defense. This is something Russia is well capable of doing. And one of the things that I think most Americans don't really understand is that for every Raytheon and for every Lockheed Martin, for every super corporation in the United States is producing high-end, expensive weapons, there's some guy in his garage in Russia that's got a way to take it down. The ingenuity of the Russian scientific community and even just individuals in Russia is astounding. And people think that, you know, the Russians, there's this stereotype, they're all drinking vodka and doing things like that. Some of the biggest technical advances have been made by Russian, and we look at the biggest and best of everything every time. It's the Russians that are doing it. We as a nation are supposed to be so high tech and stuff. Why are we using rocket engines that Russia stopped using 30 years ago? Russia's selling us the engines for the Atlas rocket system, and we're using them. They're 30 years old. They've been sitting in storage. The Russian produced them 30 years ago, and they've been sitting in storage all that time. So it's pretty scary. I don't know, Regis, do you think, you know, people understand, is this just this American exceptionalism and everyone's so brainwashed that they really think they can win a war?
I don't think the majority of American people are even considering the possibility of a war with Russia and what the potential consequences could be. In terms of the electromagnetic pulse, there are a number of us who are aware of this, and we're also aware of weapons and nuclear power being used in space. And, you know, right along these lines, an EMP, electromagnetic pulse, could take out the entire infrastructure of the world. All electronics, all computers, you know, your stoplights in your cities aren't going to work anymore. Your elevators aren't going to work. But, you know, you don't hear anybody talking about that. But I'd like to ask Russell a question. And it's because in the propaganda that we receive daily, it's like an echo chamber on all the networks, that Russia is involved right now in the struggle in Ukraine and Donbass. We keep hearing that over and over and over again.
That is an absolute lie. That is an absolute lie. I've been here for 2 years, and I can guarantee, swear on, everything. I have never seen, and I've been to Lugansk, I've been pretty much all over Donbass, and I have never seen an actual Russian military unit operating here.
So let me ask you a follow-up question.
Okay.
Are there Russian military advisors there?
There are not active Russian military, but there are Russian veterans who are very, very good at being soldiers. And they have come here and they have volunteered and they have joined the Nova Russian Army. And they are members of our, these are guys that, were Spetsnaz who fought in Chechnya, fought in the Georgian War, retired from the Russian military. And then when the stuff started kicking off here, they said, hey, I've still got a few good years of work and I'm coming here. And they, we have expert instructors, but they are not active Russian military instructors. They are not. They are retired. They are veterans.
So let me drill down a little deeper. Do you think that Russia, the Russian Federation, is pouring money and arms into Donbass in this struggle?
No, they're not. Money, we get financial support, we get humanitarian aid from the Russian government, and we get a whole lot from the Russian people. But as far, and the weapons that we have were already here. They were, Donbass had a lot of military bases, arms depots. We got those weapons when the people rose up in 2014. We've put them to good use. We've also taken a lot of weapons off of dead Ukrainian aggressors here. When you kill a soldier in battle, you get his rifle, you get his bullets, you get his grenades. If in Debaltsevo and stuff like that, when the Ukrainian army tried to surround Donetsk, and we smashed them, we took their tanks. We repair the tanks that we destroy, and then we put them back to use.
So you could say unequivocally that Russia is not involved aggressively in Ukraine nor in a Donbass.
I can say that unequivocally. The Russian army does not operate here. The people of Donbass, who are very tough. This is a coal mining area, so there's a lot of coal miners, which is like the most dangerous and toughest job that there is. And now they're soldiers. They're defending their own homes, their own families, their own towns. There's no surrender. Prisoners, Novorussian prisoners, often get tortured and killed if they're captured. So there's no, when I was working at the front, I used to carry the RGN grenade, which has an impact fuse. It's a very high, powerful grenade, and it has a 2-second time fuse. But if it hits the ground before 2 seconds, it explodes on impact. And I used to keep one of those in my pocket to keep. It was to keep from getting captured, because if you get surrounded and you're out of bullets, you pull the pin on that, and then when they come rushing in, you drop it on the ground and you die and they die too. In fact, I got to say, last night I watched the movie The Alamo with Billy Bob Thornton. A great flick. Me being from Texas, I grew up, that's one of the, great historical stories of Texas, and of military history throughout humankind. And the guys here are like the guys in the Alamo. They're, there's no surrender. There's no retreat. How can a guy run? Where I live is 5 miles from the front lines. If I go to the front and U-crop tanks start coming, I'm going to stay and fight, because if I run, then those U-crop tanks will be in my neighborhood in an hour, where my girlfriend lives, where my friends live, where, little old babushka grandmothers and little babies walk, go in their strollers. So, I mean, this is my home now. I'm defending it, but the people that are defending it against genuine Heil Hitler Nazis from the Ukrainian army and the private sector, these volunteer Nazi battalions, we will fight to the last bullet, and then we will pull out our knives and fight.
So, Russell, I have a question for you. You just let this audience know that you're an American from Texas. You told me you're a veteran, United States military veteran.
Yep, U.S. Army.
And yet, throughout this entire telecast, I guess or videocast, whatever they call it, you have referred to yourself in Donbass as we and us.
Yeah.
You identify.
This is my home. I'm in the process right now of getting a Donetsk People's Republic passport, which was recognized yesterday in the Russian Federation by a decree signed by Vladimir Putin as legitimate documents in Russia. I'm going to get me a passport. It'll probably take me about another month. There's a lot of hoops you got to jump through, a lot of red tape and stuff. But Zaharchenko, the leader of the Donetsk People Republic, is on record as saying that for those who came here and volunteered and fought in battles to defend Donbass, they are qualified to get a Donetsk People's Republic passport. And I did that, and I am qualified, and I'm in the process of it now. If I go back to the States, it's a one-way ticket to Gitmo. So this is my new home. And I got to say, really, honestly, I like it better here. I do like it better here.
Wow. Well, I commend you for what you're doing, and the stakes personally are very high for you, at least in terms of ever coming back to the United States.
Well, I mean, when I was at the front, and I still go to the front from time to time, but the first 6 months I was here, I would spend 28 days out of the month at the front in combat positions, just a few hundred meters from Ukrainian army positions. And I've been shot at with everything from Kalashnikov rifles, snipers, to mortars, artillery, grad rockets. Every day I was at the front, the stakes were as high as they get, because I'd go to my guard post every day, not sure if I was going to come back alive.
So your mission now, Russell, is to what? Be a journalist and to try to get this message out to the world? Is that what your focus is now?
Yeah, and here's the thing: when I was at the front as a soldier, and I was a good soldier too, my AK-74 had a range of about 400 meters. I was also an RPG gunner, and that has a range of about 900 meters. But my words are my bullets now, and through things like this, through the videos I make, through talking to people on radio stations in the United States, through articles that I write, my words are my bullets, and they have a range to go all the way around the world. And the goal here is, first of all, to stop the Third World War, and then to make a better world for everybody in it. I mean, I'm like Thomas Paine said, I am a citizen of the world, and my religion is to do good. And that's really, part of my philosophy. I'm not a nationalist. I'm not like pro-Russian. I'm pro-human. And so, the first thing is to stop this war. And the whole cause of this war is because after the fall of the Soviet Union, the oligarchs, the 1%ers that own the government in the United States, they really thought that they could rule the world, and they put a plan together, the Project for a New American Century, to do that, to rule the world. And they've tried to implement that, in Libya and Yugoslavia. in Syria, in Iraq, you know, and in Ukraine as well. But it's not going to work. It is not going to work. The historical mission of the great Russian people has been to prevent anyone that wanted to rule the world from being able to do so. The Russians stopped Genghis Khan, you know, 1,000 years ago. The Russians stopped Napoleon when he thought he was going to rule the world. And the Russians stopped Adolf Hitler and the German Nazis 70 years ago. And we will stop the IMF and the 1%ers from the West who think they're going to do it now. It ain't going to happen. If they start this war, they will be destroyed. They will be destroyed.
Hey, Russell and David, I read some very important comments about the Munich Security Conference at which Vice President Pence got up there and just talked all military, and the United States is going to stand behind Europe and NATO, and we're going to get right up against Russia, and we're going to stop their aggression. Following Pence was Sergei Lavrov, foreign minister for Russia. And this is what he said. Basically, Russia will end the U.S.-led world order. We have drawn the line in the sand. And now people are trying to interpret what Russia really means by that.
They mean exactly what they say. I mean, Sergei Lavrov is one of the finest men in politics in the world today. And his boss, Vladimir Putin, is too. You know, you look at, you know, the clowns that the West has put up, you know, Obama, Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump too, a real clown, you know, Pence as well, you know. These guys are midgets compared to, you know, the Russian diplomats. And what the Russian diplomats say, they mean, and they can back it up. When Pence says that, oh, he's going to back Europe and back the Baltics and all that stuff, that's complete lies. I mean, anybody in Europe just needs to look. I mean, remember the photograph of Donald Rumsfeld shaking Saddam Hussein's hand, saying, hey, you're our ally against Iran. Look at how Muammar Gaddafi gave up all his weapons of mass destruction to make peace with the West, and then they attacked him again a few years later. The United States and the people that own the government of the United States could not care less about the Baltics, Poland, or even Europe. They do not care. They do not care. They don't even care about the people in the United States. So what they say is complete bullshit.
They don't care about anybody. They don't care about any of us here in the States. And when you look at what's happening, we're going through austerity just like most of Europe and the rest of the world. They don't care. You're right.
And really, I mean, what's happening now in the United States, there's a lot of similarities and parallels to what happened in Russia in the 1990s after the fall of the Soviet Union. You know, the income inequality. I mean, the fact, and it is a fact, that the 400 richest people in the United States own more than the poorest 50% of people in the United States. You know, that tells you exactly right there what the deal is. And these people, these billionaires, just because they're rich, and first I want to say too that, you know, every billionaire on this planet is a thief, because no one can work so hard or be so smart that they can earn $1 billion themselves. So every billionaire on this planet is a thief. Trump is a billionaire. He's got a cabinet packed full of billionaires. And those guys, you know, if you have $1 billion, which is $1,000 million, and you're looking at somebody, you know, middle class makes what, 50 grand a year, 75 grand a year. You're like, you know, I make that in a minute. And so they think of themselves as Ubermenschen. They think of themselves as superior to real, you know, to regular folks. And so, they consider us to be livestock as long as we are profitable. But just like, if you have a chicken farm and there's too many chickens for the hen house, you kill some of them. And we are livestock as long as we're making them money. And then the moment that we become unprofitable, we become insects that need to be exterminated.
All right, guys. So we got a few questions here, some comments from the viewers out there. Say hi to all my buddies out there. Shout out to Timothy. And he's asking a question that you touched on a bit about the coal miners being soldiers now, but he's asking, are the civilians in Donbass armed? In the cities, are the Ukrainians avoiding and staying outside the cities because of the fear of urban guerrilla warfare?
No, really, they're not. I mean, there's a high percentage of the population that's either in the army or in the reserve militia. I mean, there's a lot of people here that, have combat experience now. And if they're not in the army, they don't have a weapon. I mean, it's, the army and the police have weapons. Civilians, by the vast majority, I mean, it's not at all like in Texas where, everybody's got a shotgun or a deer rifle or a pistol at home. It ain't like that here. And that's not why the Ukrainian army has not attacked the city. It has not attacked the city because the guys that are in the army and are in the police are very good at their jobs, and they will have a hard time. The Ukrainian army will have a very hard time breaking through that line of defense.
They're more or less sitting out in the fields, way out of town, and launching large munitions into the city for the most part. And when they do sneak up, my understanding is small groups of people that are doing kind of like raids into the front lines, causing as much problems as they can. But every time they brought in like a massive amount of troops and tried to make an advance as an army, they've been destroyed, haven't they?
Yes, they have, and they will be again, and as they should be.
Another question that's sitting out there, and this is probably for the both of you. I'll give you both a chance to answer this here. What do you think it would take for Russia to get openly involved?
Go ahead and you answer first, Regis.
I've thought about this, obviously. I think these are very tactical, long-term strategic thinkers. I mean, that's been proven for centuries. And so what is their end game? And I think that their end game is a new world order, but based on national sovereignty, international law, and respect for all people. And I think that both Russia and China believe they are strong enough militarily and economically to not cave in to the United States. And so I think their strategy is to wait and prolong as much as they can. And I think they're probably betting that the United States will not cross the border and invade either country. That would be absolute insanity. So that's my best guess. I suppose I should say that's my hope, that Russia and China will not be dragged into it.
I agree completely, and it's also my hope. I think that if there was a full-scale military attack by the Ukrainian army against Donbass, if the Ukrainian army just came in and was like basically wiping civilians out, destroying whole communities, I think the Russians would have to morally and strategically be obliged to do something about it. And I think they would, I mean, so, that's the reason, that there hasn't been just a giant, like, scorched earth policy, kill them all, let God sort them out by the Ukrainian army, because they have to know that, if there was a war between Ukraine and Russia, it would be over in 2 days flat, and Ukraine would be the losers. So if there is a giant military attack by the Ukrainian army against Donbass, I sincerely believe that the Russians, because of the moral obligation to not just sit by and watch people 100 kilometers away be slaughtered like ants, and because of the strategic obligation also to not let a completely war criminal regime control all of a country right on their border, I think the Russians would have to do something. And I think it would be very hard and very fast. And I think Ukrainians know that.
Go back to some of the questions here. So we have a lot of people that know Russell because he's been out there producing stuff. And a lot of the people that are following me are people that are interested in Russia, Ukraine, the Crimea, these things that are often in the news unfortunately over the last 3 years. But a lot of people don't know Regis. Regis, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and why are you here? What are you doing? What's going on with you? And I want to let everyone know that we're going to talk to Regis and screen his film soon enough. So you want to subscribe to my channel, his channel. I'll put up the Facebook for everyone here in the comments. So keep on. We're going to talk to Regis. Regis, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got to Russia?
Well, I'm an independent filmmaker, and I live in the state of Maine. I really got radicalized by going to South Korea and Jeju Island in 2012. And as a result of that, I made a film entitled The Ghosts of Jeju, Jeju, which revealed for the first time atrocities on the island commanded by the United States military government in Korea immediately after World War II. That film went around the world through grassroots groups of all kinds. It's been translated into 7 languages. As a result of making that film, my eyes were opened about the expansive and ever-growing militarism and imperialism of the United States around the world. So that led to 2 trips down through the Pacific. I just came back this summer from a month from Hawaii all the way down to the Marshall Islands, was in Japan, Okinawa, Hiroshima for the 70th anniversary. And then this past year I went to Ukraine, and then just in October I spent a month in Russia doing the final filming for my new film, which is called 30 Seconds to Midnight, The Final Wake Up Call. And the theme is to try to wake up people that humanity and all life on the planet is on the brink of extinction because of what United States militarism, imperialism, and capitalism are doing to the world. And so I'm known by a lot of people all over the world, but I'm not anybody that anybody really would know or recognize, except those people that have seen my material.
Well,
and my end goal is to wake people up so that hopefully people will work very hard for a peaceful world. And in that process, I'm really exposing the untold history of the United States as a country founded on genocide, slavery, and the stealing of land and resources, beginning with the Native Americans and now all over the world. And everybody outside the United States totally aware of that. The people understand. So that's my goal.
Yeah, and I want to thank you especially for coming in here, because I think you're adding a unique perspective on what we're talking about. Another thing I want to point out, and maybe some of the people that are following me on the internet, a lot of them are Russians, is that you're actually interested in having some of these films translated into Russian. So after the broadcast, I know there's a lot of guys out there that are in my circles that know English and Russian, they know computers. If they can get some translation done, because you're crowdsourcing everything you're doing, right? This is all a grassroots effort.
Yeah, and let me, my first film, The Ghost of Jeju, has already been translated into Russian. And I have that transcript, but it's waiting for somebody in Russia or Crimea who can do the video editing and putting subtitles on The Ghost of Jeju. And I certainly hope that the same will be done for 30 Seconds to Midnight, because the Russian people are going to appreciate very much this film that is a counter narrative to American propaganda and really places Russia and the Russian people in a very, very positive and good light.
Well, it's great to have you here. I got another question for Russell from Cyber Jim 1986. And he's asking, Russell, do you think there's much point in having the OSCE in Donbass anymore, since they're clearly not working in the interest of Donbass?
The thing about it is that we are here trying to we're trying to implement the Minsk agreement. We are, I mean, everybody that lives under artillery fire, every soldier at the front, they want peace. The only things worse than peace is fascism and slavery, and we're not having any of that. But if we can stop that, then the next thing we want is peace. So the OSCE is a real joke here. Alexander Hug is a scumbag. But, you know, for us, you know, we can't kick them out. And I mean, the fact that we haven't kicked them out shows that we are legit, you know, that we are trying to implement the Minsk Accords. And even though they are really worthless, and even though there is serious opinion here that they are spies for the UCROP army, you know, we let them go about their business. We're not kicking them out because we have nothing to hide. We have nothing to hide here. So we let them cruise around. We let them do what they do, which is not much at all. But you know, we're not going to kick them out. We're not going to let them carry weapons here, but, you know, we'll protect them. They have not been hurt. They are not popular here, but they've never been hurt. I mean, you know, somebody threw eggs or spray painted their cars once or twice, but, you know, they've never been hurt. Nobody here on the OSCE has ever been attacked or injured in any way. And so, I mean, they can stay. You know, we're trying to make peace here.
Now, I talked to Russell several times before, and I think I want to go over the vocabulary a little bit here. It's been pretty popular as of late to just call anyone you don't like a fascist. And one of the things that I think people don't realize is when we're calling someone a Nazi or calling someone a fascist, and if you look at your screen right now, what you're seeing is an official logo that's on an official uniform, okay, of the Azov Battalion. It's got components of this logo are the Nazi black sun and the emblem of the SS Das Reich. It's a wolf's angle. It's like a swastika, but different. So, you know, we're not just using, I want to make sure everyone understands here, we're not just using the term Nazi or fascist because we don't like them. These are real people. That's their ideology. And now they've got guns and they're sitting outside the cities of Donbass and firing large munitions in complete disregard for the Minsk agreements that Russell is talking about, and the OSCE is supposed to be monitoring. Another thing that I want to make sure that everyone that's watching this, for me, for Russell, for the people of Donbass, for the people of Ukraine, I don't believe that, you know, there's this bad Ukrainian thing. So, like, if someone's thinking that, you know, we're down on Ukrainians, I want to make sure that everyone understands that in reality, we look at the Ukrainians as people that have had their government taken over and have been had their economy destroyed. It's gone down last 3 years more than it came up in the previous 20. We're talking about people that have brothers and sisters and families and uncles on all sides of the borders. There's the term Ukrop also is not really a derogatory or racist term. Okay, it means it's a term that they've called themselves, and these are the people that are fighting on the front lines. They call themselves Ukrop, but that's not necessarily a derogatory term for Ukrainians. I think on both sides of the border, most of the population understands that these people largely are non-combatants. They're pawns in a big chess game, you know, and the things that are going on would have never have happened if it had been another day. They'd all sit at the same table. They'd all sing the same songs. They'd all drink the same drinks, and everyone would be happy. So I want to make sure that people don't understand that people understand that, you know, nobody here sitting among us is saying the Ukrainians are bad. We're saying that the Ukrops are bad, and that's not a Ukrainian. That's someone that's taken up arms and is willing to fight in a civil war against people because of their ethnic denomination, right? So we're talking about people that think just because you speak Russian, you have no right to breathe air. So that's one of the things I want to make sure that everyone understood when we were talking about this stuff, is that, you know, I got tons of friends in Ukraine. I have family all over the place, and you know, we don't want to project that you know, look, all the Ukrainians are bad. That would be wrong. But we are making sure you understand that when the word Nazi and the term fascism is used, we're talking about official government organizations, official government policy. One of the first things the Nazis did when they came to power is they banned the use of the Russian language. Now, this is a violation of human rights. The Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, which Ukraine signed while it was still part of the Soviet Union, says you can't discriminate against any minority in your country, and it's not even the minority. Most everyone in Ukraine speaks fluent Russian. It's what they taught them in school. It's what they grew up with. It's been the language of the area for 1,000 years. The other thing that they did was they removed the ban. This is the second thing that they did, is they removed the ban on Nazi symbolism. That's the first thing. They banned the Russian language. Second thing, they removed the ban on Nazi symbolism. We're talking about real Russians here, folks, and it's in the middle of Russia, in the middle of Europe, and it's going on now.
These guys, it's not a war between Russians and Ukrainians. It's a war between decent people and genuine Nazis that have swastika tattoos, that say Heil Hitler, and most importantly, that act like Nazis, that think that they are going to be the masters of slaves. And they call the Russian people, speaking people here, the ethnic Russian people here, they say they are Untermenschen. They are subhumans, and they are, you know, they are eligible to be made slaves or killed, you know, like animals. And that's the people we are fighting, the people that think that. We're not against Ukrainian people. I mean, you know, Russia and Ukraine have a history together as brothers that goes back 1,000 years, more than 1,000 years. You know, so it's not Russians and Ukrainians fighting. It's a false government, a fascist government that was installed by foreign powers into Ukraine in order to create, just like the same people that installed this Nazi regime here are the same ones that created Al-Qaeda, created ISIS, to get Muslims to fight against each other and now they're getting the Slavic people to fight against each other here too. But we're not against Ukrainians. I mean, the head of the DNR and the LNR have just recently said that they're looking into sending humanitarian aid to Russian people who are on the other side of the line, who are under Ukrainian army occupation right now. We're going to send them humanitarian aid, you know. So we're not against them. I mean, and ukrop really, it's a Russian word for dill, you know, like the spice, dill, like dill pickles. That's what it means, you know. And Ukrainian people use a lot of that spice. I do too. It's actually quite delicious. So that's what it means. It doesn't mean like subhuman or scumbag or anything like that. It means someone that puts a lot of dill spice on their food, which I do too. So from that extent, I could be called the ukrop as well. The thing about prohibiting the Russian language, it's really funny because today I was reading tweets from the U.S. Embassy in Kiev that were written in Russian.
Yeah,
and like, so when's private sector going to go punish? Yeah, like this guy, that picture right there, that is the deputy police chief of the city of Kiev. And look at his tattoos. He's got that swastika on his arm, on his back. He's got the full Nazi eagle. It goes from shoulder to shoulder. I mean, you just take a look at that dude. He looks like Uncle Fester from the Addams Family. And, you know, that's the kind of guy you want protecting your family, that you want keeping peace and order in your town. Not in Donbass. That dude's never gonna be a cop here. I can guarantee you that. And not much longer in Kiev either. The Kiev Nazis are now fighting against each other in Kiev.
That's right.
Tomorrow is going to be a hot day in Kiev.
It'll be a warm day in Kiev. So what we're looking at here is this is that same guy, like the day after he became the head of, or the deputy head of the Kiev police, inside their press conference room in the Ministry of Internal Affairs. Mm-hmm. He and his buddies all doing their little Nazi Sieg Heil. How is the U.S. supporting this, Regis? You're the guy in the United States. I want your opinion. How is this not all over? How is this not all over Western media? Why have Trump supporters pointed this out, that if we're going to call Trump a Nazi, why aren't we calling Hillary Clinton's State Department a Nazi? Why aren't we calling Barack Obama a Nazi? We already know, the world seems to know that, you know, we're dropping supplies to ISIS in Syria, right? Do they know that and nobody's running around calling people, you know, jihadi in the United States. Everyone's calling Trump a fascist and so on and so forth. But these are moderate democratic supporters in Ukraine. What's your take on that? Do you think it's going to be something that becomes public?
To answer the question that you started with, why aren't people in the United States aware of this? It's not part of the narrative. It's not part of what they want the American people to know. They're telling the American people that these are Ukrainian people that are rising up on their own. And, you know, they want democracy and they want freedom. I mean, that's Victoria Nuland. That was her line. That's Joe Biden's line. We're helping these people form a democratic society, and we're trying to integrate them into, you know, NATO and the European Union, get them closer to the West. That's the narrative. They don't want people knowing that there are neo-Nazis there that are causing the disruption. I learned it firsthand when I went to Odessa in May of just this last year. Our bus was attacked by neo-Nazis. They throw stones at us. You could tell who they had their shaved heads and they had their swastika stickers on them. You know, the whole idea of why people like me, and there were maybe a dozen of us international observers of the May 2nd anniversary of the massacre, the mothers were having the mothers of those who were killed were having a memorial. And we were invited to go there as protection. That's really what it was, as protection, because they widely broadcast that these international journalists were coming there to observe that this would be a peaceful memorial. Very, very worried about attacked by neo-Nazis or parts of the Ukrainian military. And so people like me, I came back and I made a video about our experience in Odessa. And specifically, my friend Bruce Gagnon, who I shot this little narrative with, it's about 28 minutes long, he pointed it out very clearly, and we had pictures and video of these Nazis. And so, you know, it's little guys like me that are not part of the mainstream media that are trying to get the truth out there about what's really happening. I went there and saw it with my own eyes, and so now I consider it, you know, my responsibility to try to tell the truth. And before I'll need to go here in a little bit, but David, could you send me the link to that video that you showed? It seemed like there were protests of neo-Nazis going on in Kiev right now.
Right.
Could you send me the link to that?
Sure, I'll send it to you right now. Sure.
Okay. Well, this has been great. I'm going to need to leave.
Okay. Hey,
But,
hey, Regis, I really appreciate you being in on this, and I want to work with you in the future, bro. Let's do some work together.
Absolutely. We can do that easily.
All right. And I have to go too. David, thanks again for another excellent broadcast. I'm looking forward to working a lot more closely with you in the future as well. I mean, together we can do some serious business. We can spread the truth around the world.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing how the network continues to grow.
So yeah, then we'll call it a wrap. And thank both of you guys for coming in. Regis, look forward to doing a video with you soon. We're going to talk about your film. So everyone that's out there watching this should subscribe. I'm going to put links to both of your guys' Facebooks. You can put them in the comments yourself, actually. Just go to the YouTube video. You'll be able to find the links to both these fine gentlemen's social media resources. Stick them all in there, your Twitter and everything. And thanks for watching. You guys have a nice night.
All right. Dava.